Hey, good morning. Bob here. Today we're going to make my second graduation on this spruce top. This is one of my two new guitars, one of my final guitars. And right now the top has an overall thickness of about 3.4 millimeters in the center and 3.4 up here, and the top is slightly thinner around the perimeter, about 10%. It goes from about 3.4 to about 3 to 3.1 millimeters. That graduation was made on the inside of the guitar before the top was glued on to the sides. Okay, so what I want to go over today is sharpening the scrapers, which I just made a quick video of. And in fact, I just did a quick edge on all of these 3 scrapers off to the side here. I also use a carpenter pencil to draw a graduation line. I'll get into that in a minute. I have a little list here. So I've got the pencil in, the graduation line, explain my views on releasing the top a bit while retaining the basic top thickness. Eventually, I will start sanding with 150, and when I get close to what I want, I will go to 220, and finally I'll go to 320 in preparation for wiping on shellac, which will protect the top after the second graduation and while I'm routing and installing the bindings. Okay? So, without further ado, it is in fact Friday, the 17th of July. Now, let me get a ruler. Had one here a second ago. Here it is. And I like to do a band. I like to make a mark at 2 inches. And there's 2 inches right there. So I don't need it perfect, but I'm going to just kind of pencil in a mark here lightly. And I'll do the same over here. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll bring it up to here, like that. So let's just make believe that I use the carpenter pencil because it's got a bigger piece of lead and it's pretty soft. And for the sake of you being able to see this line, I'm gonna put it in a lot darker than I'd normally do it. And in fact, it's about 2 1/4 inches, and that's fine. 2 to 2 1/4 inches, that's fine. So, like I said, this area in here is about 3.4 millimeters now. I can feel the roughness of the top. It's sanded to 150 right now, and I can actually feel that. Okay, so I've already made graduation number 1. Before I glued on the braces inside, I made my first graduation where I reduced the perimeter of the guitar, of the top, by about 10%. So being a 3.5 let's say a 3.4 millimeter top, that would have meant that I would have thinned the edges down on the other side before I put the bracing on. I would have thinned them down 0.3 to 0.4 of a millimeter percent. Okay? Excuse me, 0.3 and a half millimeter, which is about 10% thinner. Okay? So, I'm going to take my little felt block here, and it has a little cedar piece of scrap glued onto it. I'm going to take a piece of, I've got sandpaper here already cut. That's 150, and this is all 220, brand new. Okay? So I'm going to keep those off to the side. I've got the fan running. The air conditioner behind the camera is running. It's in one of the windows in the shop. And I'm going to speak a little loudly, so forgive me for that. I'm going to bend this 1/8 sheet in half. This is 150. And I'm going to get this edge, and then I'll have a new piece right here. Now, before I start, I already know what the thickness of the top is, 3.4 and about 3.1, okay? I'm also going to look at the side of the top here to visually see how thick it is visually. The number doesn't mean anything. And I'm going to look on this side as well to visually look at the top and see how thick it is. And that is a picture in my mind that I'm going to save, because I'm going to need that to reference my brain. Now, before I start sanding and graduating this soundboard, the deal here is what I'm trying to do is loosen up the top around the edges. I'm not trying to thin the soundboard for no reason at all. I am loosening the edges up so that the soundboard can pump air a little bit more freely. Now, also, through the 3+ decades that I've been making guitars, I've come to know that typically thicker soundboards produce better trebles and thinner soundboards produce stronger basses. This particular guitar is fashioned after my Hauser II that I used to own from 1971. This guitar right here, if you can see that. So, it's a rather thick top guitar. When I'm done, the top will end up probably 3.3 millimeters thick, and the edges will probably be about 2.7 millimeters, okay? So now it's about 3.1. If I take it down 10%, that would be 0.3 of a millimeter, 0.3 millimeter, and that would bring it down to about 2.8. I want to loosen this up a bit. Now, why do I only want to go 10%? Well, I didn't say, I just said that if I were to do 10%, I would have to reduce the band around here by 0.3 millimeters. That would be about 10%. However, I want to loosen it up a little bit more than 10%. I'd like to go to at least 15. So I would like this measurement around here to end up about 2.6, something like that. Now I do have a digital measuring device where I can measure the progress, and in fact I will measure it, but not right now. I want to start removing some stuff. This line up here is a little bit of a, don't believe it totally, because I'm gonna actually feather it up a little bit higher than that. But I made that because I wanted to make the distinction that what I really want to loosen up is right here in the belly of the guitar. But I don't want to thin this down because I want my trebles. Now, as I graduate this soundboard, I will sand more on the bass side because I already know that a thinner soundboard will produce better basses. So I'm trying to balance where I sand. Now, not just that, the great Robert Ruck did some experimentation when he was alive, and he accidentally made a right-handed guitar for a left-handed player. So he decided he would string it up anyway and see what it sounded like. And in fact, it didn't matter which side he made thinner. It still responded where the basses were robust and the trebles were loud and pure and significant. So, I also want to say that this happens to be a thick top guitar, but this isn't the only kind of guitar that I make. I also make guitars with thin tops and more bracing versus thick tops and less bracing. This happens to be in the thick top, less bracing category. But there are times that I do make thin top guitars because I am trying to get a certain sound, more like a Simplicio, let's say, a lighter guitar with a thin soundboard and very bassy. But that's not what I'm making here. So before I start committing to my second graduation, which is rather a important graduation, because the third graduation is extremely minimal, and I'll get into that when I do it. Third graduation happens after the bindings are on, and I scrape them down and resand the entire top, and that's the third graduation. It's very minor graduation, whereas this one is really where my sound is starting to come, okay? The sound that I have in my mind. So before I just start going crazy on this guitar, I have to have a plan in my brain what I'm trying to achieve. In fact, the top here is 3.4 right now. Let's just say I'm going to write it on here lightly. And right now this is 3.1, let's say, approximately. My goal on this band, when I'm done, I'd like it to be about 2.6 to 2.7, okay? And maybe a little thinner over here. Now, I am going to thin down the bass side a little bit thinner. But keep in mind, when you have 6 strings here at the bridge, the difference from the low E to the high E is, 3 inches. So it's not like the bass strings know that this side is thinner versus this side 3 inches away being thicker, okay? I wish it was that easy, but it really isn't. So what I want to do is retain beautiful trebles, but I'd like to try to get some basses too. And this graduation is where I try to make that happen. Okay? So I have a clear plan. I'm talking about it right now. I'm going to start committing to sanding here. I have no problem going against the grain this direction. And the reason is my sandpaper is only 150 grit. I won't go any more coarse than 150 because I don't want to have extremely deep scratching. But 150 is aggressive enough to remove. And what my plan is to sand and roughen up this band and then take a scraper and scrape away all the peach fuzz left over. So I'm going to scrape mainly to remove what I just sanded, okay? I'm not going to scrape to remove plain shavings. Some of that may happen, and if it does, I need to be more careful. Also, when I'm scraping against the grain, I can really damage the soundboard. So I have to be very careful when I'm going this way, okay? Oftentimes I'll tape the outside edge of these blades, but I'm not going to today because I'm going to be cupping, bending the scraper, so this end should never really hit the middle here. Let's see how the humidity is. It's pretty low in here today. I still have a nice dome on the top. You can see my ruler is rocking, okay? And that's a good thing. Now, I can also wet the soundboard here a little bit if I want to raise the grain. That's another thing you could do. But you'd have to wet it and then walk away for a half hour and come back and scrape off the raised grain. It's just easier to sand it. So once again, I'm shooting for a final band. Now this band, I'm going to stay about within this line. However, I will be going over the line to blend a little bit. Okay, and that's all going to happen here. So here we go. I can feel this is brand new sandpaper. And as I sand, it is going to get less and less effective, the paper that is. Now you can, I don't know if you can see it, but this sandpaper is pretty aggressive stuff. I mean, it's literally taking off quite a bit. This is going to be boring to watch. And I'm not doing any editing because I just don't want to spend the time doing that. You can see I'm sanding pretty hard here. Normally I would wear a mask to do this, but I want to be able to talk clearly to you. I'm going to go over my line here because I do want to sand a little bit more on the base side. I might add too, it takes a lot of aggressive sanding to make a substantial difference in the sound of a guitar. And there's quite a bit of dust here. I'm gonna choose a scraper. I think this one might be it. Let's see what happens. Not bad. I like this side better. If I can do this. There. You can see there's wood coming off, definitely. But what I'm doing is I'm sanding off the fuzz. Excuse me. I'm scraping off the fuzz. Once again. Okay? So, let's I'm going to try this other scraper. Whoop. My fingernail. Not cool. It's okay. Got a long way to go. And once again, more stuff. Okay, I'm going to do a quick vac. Now, I could redraw a line, but I don't need to. I just know where the mark is. I'm going to look at the side here, and I don't see a significant change. So we're going to keep sanding. I'm going to use the same paper here. Keep in mind, this is the bass side, treble side. I'm working the bass side a little bit more. I want it a little thinner over here. There was a time when I used to thin on the underneath side. On my first graduation, I used to thin in here more, okay? And I don't do it as much as I used to, but I felt that it helped the sound. You'll still see me. I'll still go in here more than I go anywhere else, but not yet. I'm trying to do the edges right now. Notice I haven't done anything in here. Okay. Just caught it with my long guitar nail. You gotta be careful when you do this. This is not done haphazardly. Now, another thing that I learned from Augie Loprinzi years ago is to push on the top and see how much it deflects. And can you feel it move? Don't want to push too hard, but you want to push hard enough for it to move. It's definitely moving. Matter of fact, I just realized I forgot to put my wedges in here. Okay. One on each end. There we go. Okay. I'm going to move to the fresh side of the sandpaper because that other side is getting a little bit tired. Now it's really cutting hard again. Now keep in mind the soundboard is already domed, so I am creating even more of a dome now. And in fact, when I make the bridge, the bottom of the bridge will have to be concave in order to fit down on the dome of the top. Okay, refocusing my brain here. It seems like I'm sanding a lot, but it takes quite a bit of sanding to remove the amount that I want. Doing a visual check of the sides. And I'm going to stop and discuss this now. You might be thinking, God, he's taking off a lot of sawdust. He's sanding really hard. And when is he going to stop? And why is he going so far? And so on. Well, you got to remember, I've been doing this a long time, and I've learned that it takes this much sanding to get to the point where I want to be. So I'm not just sanding with a band end. I actually do have a target in mind. And these are quite thick soundboards. Check, it's rocking quite a bit. It's got like at least 1/8 of an inch dome in it. I'd say it's got about 1/8 of an inch in the middle. Goes both ways, don't forget. Let me scrape off some. You can see. Okay. Let me get my digital measuring device and do a quick check on that. So I use the magic probe, and it's a great device. I do keep the batteries out of it so they don't leak. It's like a, $400 device. I can't remember. It was a lot of money. Put the batteries back in. Turn it on and follow the instructions. Place ball on probe. There's the ball on the probe. Please wait. 8, 9, remove ball from probe. Please wait. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big ball found. Replace ball. Now it's saying out of range. Now it's going down to 0. Okay, now the gauge is on 0, and which means I can measure the soundboard. I'm going to take the ball. I'm usually doing this with the guitar sideways on the soundboard, but I am going to measure this. It's saying 3.2, 3.23. So right there, it's saying 3.2, which I don't fully believe. Let's see what the edges are. And make sure we're not on the bridge pad. It's saying, what's interesting is I don't believe this because something's not right here. I don't believe what it's telling me. It's telling me 2.01 millimeters. I definitely don't believe that. I don't believe these readings that I'm getting here. And that's an interesting thing. Maybe I need new batteries in here. It's acting kind of funny. It's saying right now, yeah, this is not acting properly. And I'm not sure why, but I already know this is not right. Let me restart it just for the heck of it. Yeah. I don't want to waste time in this video to replace the battery. So what I'll do is I'm going to keep sanding because I know there's an issue here. Try one more time just for the fun of it. Big ball found. Replace the ball. All of this is normal, what it's doing now. It's zeroing out to 0. So far everything is normal. This should be reading about 3.4, 3.3 to 3.4. And what it's doing is it's going below 3, down to 2.2, 2.1. It's acting batty. It's totally not right, and I'll have to check it out with a couple of new batteries. Now it's saying 2.01, 1.98. It's whacked out. So sorry to waste your time. I will replace the batteries after and continue with that. And of course, the one time I'm doing a demo using the Magic Probe, it's acting unmagical. I'm going to keep going in regardless because I already know I'm not anywhere near close. Blend it a little bit here. If I don't blend it, after the French polish is on, you'll see a line, sort of like a violin. The main thing I want you to see here is I'm really not going in the middle too much. I will be, but not at this point. As I sand the base side, I am imagining bigger bases because I already know that a thinner top produces much bigger bass response. Don't forget, it takes a lot of sanding to make a small difference. Refocusing my mind. When I do against the grain, I'm not going perfectly straight across. I'm going at a slight angle so I don't get tear out. As you can see here. I'm also feeling how the scraper's cutting. Okay. Okay, just want to see what kind of give the soundboard has. It's feeling a little bit looser. Not concerned about up here. I have a rather large neck block here, so that isn't going to move at all. It's really down here. This is the air pump. Okay, so at this point, what I would like to try before I keep going, we'll stop part one of this little demonstration because I want to replace the batteries and put some new batteries in the Magic Probe. And I want to remeasure this and see what's going on because I've never had a problem with the Magic Probe, and I'm thinking the only thing it could be is new batteries that it needs. So you get the idea. Part one, thinning the edges. Right now, 150 paper and scraper blades. Visually checking the sides of the top, and I definitely need some more sanding over here. But I want to see if I can get the Magic Probe working properly so that I can get an accurate measurement. Okay, so end of part one, and I'll be back.